How's it going, everybody? Bryan, Alvarez, and Dave Meltzer here. Wrestling Observer Radio, May 15, 2018. Figure4online.com/WrestlingObserver.com. Lots of news to get into here today, and we're going to go over this taped Raw show. And I want to start with it because of the very first thing they aired on the show, which we actually must start with here today.
Oh, the Nia Jax match?
So the show opens with WWE at the upfronts. And there's an interview going on with Ronda Rousey, and she's being asked how things are going, and this and that, and everything's fine. And then Charlotte shows up, and Charlotte says, you know, you're great, but here's one thing you can't do, and she does a Ric Flair woo, and they're all buddy-buddy. And then up walks Nia Jax. And she challenges Ronda to a match for the belt. And Ronda says, listen, I've only had one match. There are a lot of women that deserve it more than I do. And Charlotte says, no, you need to accept. And so she says, okay, I accept. And then Charlotte gets between them and promises this is going to be good. And everybody laughs and does a Ric Flair woo, and they're joking around. Where to begin? The skit itself I thought was cringeworthy. Like, the most horrible backstage segment that they do, except it was actually in front of real people at the upfronts. And I guess they only had one chance to do it. And they aired it twice on this show, which I couldn't even believe. I thought it came off very badly. And the match itself, Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey for the WWE Raw Women's title and Money in the Bank. What's going on here?
Okay, so
where to begin?
Where do you want to start? Okay. When I first heard it, I thought, okay, just the idea of this is really bad on a lot of, because here's the first thing I thought, is that, okay, if you want Ronda Rousey to be in a championship match right away, you probably, should have had, Asuka as champion. She shouldn't have lost to Charlotte. She should be undefeated. So then you have Ronda Rousey against Asuka.
Good start.
Yeah. And I still wouldn't do that for maybe 6 months or so, maybe 9 months. I mean, it feels too quick. There's no chase. Isn't the chase the big thing? The fact that it's Nia Jax, I mean, eventually they were going to do this match, but it's like you're if you're going to put Ronda Rousey in a singles match, especially coming off her great showing at WrestleMania, it's like Nia Jax is the last person I would want her to have her first singles match with, for a lot of reasons. I mean, just the idea that if something goes wrong, and that's why I said Asuka. It's not even the undefeated streak or anything like that. It's that Asuka has worked with a lot of women wrestlers that are new at various levels of experience, and she's the most experienced woman on the roster, I think. Maybe Natalya, but Asuka's she's still, even though I can't say she's had a lot of great matches, although, her match with Charlotte was great. But great matches lately. Well, obviously when she was in NXT, she had great matches regularly. But she's probably one of the best workers in the company. Maybe, at times when she was in NXT, I thought she was the best worker in the whole company, men or women. But the point is, if something happens in a singles match with Ronda Rousey, I would be, and it's not going to be Natalya or Mickie James, and even Mickie James is a stretch. Asuka would be the one I'd be at least comfortable with. Storyline wise, it's still way too early, but it's if the idea is we just got to we're paying so much money to Ronda Rousey, we need her in a big singles match right now. I guess that would be my safest bet. And I think just because of the fact that they had just started the Mickie James thing and they've already dropped it, tells me that this thing that they just did today was a last-minute change of ideas, because clearly nothing had built this up at all. Came out of nowhere. So I don't think that this is something that they planned. So because it's a stupid plan. But you put Ronda Rousey in there with Nia Jax this early, and they could have a terrible match. Asuka, Nia Jax, is coming off of a match with Alexa Bliss that was, no good. And Alexa Bliss is, they're best friends, and usually best friends work really well together. And I know Ronda Rousey looked way better in her last match than Alexa Bliss has looked in any match in her life. You're still talking a huge experience difference between the two of them. There is, Nia Jax is the wrong opponent. Going for the championship this early is ridiculous because there's no chase. So now you have two things. Also, now what do you do about a finish? If you put Ronda Rousey over, it's big news and everything like that. But again, you didn't even have the chase. You risk the resentment of some fans because of the "you deserve it" fans, because they're going to think that, they gave this woman the championship ahead of all these other women, even though she's, obviously more famous and more over than all of them. You're gonna have that thing where you're risking her getting booed, and even if someday you really do think that she's going to be a heel, it's way too early to do that, especially considering the reaction she got at WrestleMania, that it's not the time to turn her heel or to risk a situation where you have that thing. And again, Nia Jax is a babyface, even though she didn't get cheered in her last match at all. And I would suspect Ronda Rousey gets cheered against her, but it's a risk if she wins. If she loses, I'm thinking okay, what are you thinking? Because that's just downright stupidity if she's going to lose. With the idea, well, we got to beat everybody and all this. And speaking, remember when you said how with the benefit of hindsight, beating Asuka and ending the streak, it's it's easier. It's so hard to book her. Blah blah blah. Okay, exactly. What have they done with Asuka that's since she lost?
Nothing.
So if it was so much easier to book her, they don't even have any ideas what to do. So it's not easier to book her. I guess you could say it's easier if you're lazy bookers, but they didn't even prove that. So anyway, that's a different issue. So there is one explanation, and it's actually a good one if this is the direction that they go, which is that Ronda Rousey goes in there, she's about to win the championship. Stephanie McMahon and Nia Jax join up, screw Ronda Rousey out of her winning it of the championship. Nia goes heel with Stephanie in the corner, and you keep Stephanie and Ronda Rousey going. And that actually makes perfect sense if they're going to do that, even going early and everything like that.
So you beat Ronda Rousey in her first singles match.
Yeah, it's granted, I know that sounds ridiculous, but you could always do a DQ, and not do a pin, which would probably be smarter actually in that situation. But have Stephanie, because Stephanie, she did hurt Stephanie before and all that. It does make perfect sense that they're all giggling together. And granted, they never did show Stephanie with Ronda from that thing together, which I thought was at least that was good. Even though there's pictures of them everywhere, which is, I guess it's okay. They weren't not going to do it. How could they help but do it? The whole thing there with at the upfronts, trying to. It's so weird. Because the upfronts are about, getting advertisers and things like that to, interested in the fall programming and getting them interested in to advertise on the fall programming. And they're out there doing their women's shtick, with, the whole first women in the Middle East, and they were chanting "This is hope" and all that stuff. And you've got to figure that these, that these advertisers are going to see so through what a con that is. You know, I mean, they're not going to know. Well, you know, it wasn't really the first women's match, and it was almost no people were actually chanting that, and it's kind of a half-assed made up. It's not a completely made up story, but it's an embellished story. But the whole thing is, they're not going to know any of that, but they're going to see through the idea of like this with the, you know, the fact that how can this be progressive? You know what I mean? It's like, this is like something from everybody else has done this decades ago, and you're acting like this progressive. So it's wrestling anyway, and people always, you know, in that community, wrestling's already got the bad rep to begin with. So when you start trying to act like you're like this, it's sort of negative. The only positive is that they had Ronda Rousey there, and Ronda Rousey's like, to people in that world, you know, she's a big time celebrity, and her being in WWE absolutely legitimizes WWE. So having Ronda Rousey there, that was a positive. Having Ric Flair's daughter there, that's a positive. You know, because people of that age group, a lot of them, when they think of wrestling, Ric Flair is one of the first people they think of, and they have fond memories of him now and things like that. But to be all preachy about it, it's kind of like, that's kind of foolish. But they can't help themselves. I mean, we've been through this for decades when it comes to stuff like that. So, I mean, there is the one way that they could do this that it does make sense, and if it's done correctly, and you know, you leave with the idea that Ronda Rousey did get screwed out of a championship that she deserves, and you know, of all the women on the roster to be Stephanie's heavy, Nia Jax is the best one. If the match goes any length of time, it's a risk. I mean, I know Ronda, you know, it was a 20-minute match, and she was in a lot, and it was with Stephanie, who's not even all that experienced, and she was great. But it's, you know, you're and plus you got the other risk too. It's like Nia's like kind of unsafe. You know what I mean? And it's like, do you really need to risk Ronda getting hurt this early? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not like the odds of her getting hurt are 50%, but they might be 10%, and you don't need to risk that because of anyone else on the roster, nobody else has that kind of percentage. I mean, granted, you could always get hurt, and that's a minor part of it. I mean, but I do think that Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax as a program, if they're, you know, and hoping no one gets hurt, it's a natural because of the size of Nia Jax. I mean, it's a natural, viable thing. Even then, don't you think Ronda Rousey should have gone through like 4 or 5 women for 4 or 5 months before even getting there? You know, even like the best argument for this thing, it's still too soon. You know, even if you're going to do the thing with Stephanie and blah, 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 you still didn't have the chase. It's still ridiculously early. So that is my thought. We'll see what they do. If they go in there and they just beat Ronda Rousey because she's not ready and everyone's got to lose and you got to learn, blah, 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 that's just freaking insane.
Well, from there we had Roman Reigns come out, booed out of the building, says he's being screwed again. Yeah,
didn't you like when they go, well, this is the UK, this is like, that's why they're reacting like this. It's like, this happens, I don't care what city they're in, it's always the same.
Says he's been screwed, but it wasn't by management. This time it was by Jinder Mahal. Says if Jinder wants to be more relevant than he's ever been, he can come out and face Roman like a man right now. So Kurt comes out. He does his promo where it's clear he's been talking to Stephanie McMahon. Says he's talking on behalf of management. Says, I denied Jinder an opportunity to compete, but I was thinking emotionally, not logically. It's not what's best for business. Jinder's a former WWE champion. Tonight he's going to have a chance to qualify. Announces Lashley versus the Drifter versus Jinder for the main event. And Roman says, well, add me. I'll beat Jinder, qualify for Money in the Bank, everything will be great. Kurt says, no, management decrees you get no more qualifying opportunities. He says, I know this sucks. I know you're mad. And Roman says, you know, I get it. I'm not mad at you. I'm just going to go do what I have to do. And he goes backstage. The fans sing the goodbye song to him. He goes looking for Jinder. He finds him. He beats the shit out of him, smashes him all over backstage, smashes him out onto the ramp, gives him a Superman punch, and everybody comes out to break it up.
Well, there was a thing first where there was a distraction by Sameel Singh, and Jinder actually got the upper hand at first, and then Roman came back and beat him up. Yeah, that did. I don't know. Like, if there's a positive to this, it's that I'm hoping that they barely do a program, because I sure was not interested in seeing Roman Reigns get his revenge or anything like that. I got no interest in a singles match with Roman Reigns and Jinder after this. But the thing is when they
hold on, that's where they're going though.
But I have no interest.
Roman's out of Money in the Bank, Jinder's out of Money in the Bank, so they have to be doing a match on that.
Oh yeah,
show.
I know. But I'm hoping that it's just like one and done, just to do something, because, my God, I mean, talk about a match like with no interest. I mean, think about this. Okay, they're doing the show, and people are going to boo both guys. I think they have this idea that because it's against Jinder, they're going to cheer Roman Reigns, and it's not going to happen. They're going to boo both guys. They're going to, they'll probably have to put it on in the middle, because they'll never put that on last. That would just be insane. But it's like, plus, okay, it's like Roman Reigns, the one good thing is that he usually has good matches. And I'm not saying he won't have a good match with Jinder, because he might. But the odds are not particularly great that they will. When I think about the way these two match up, it doesn't feel like a good match at all. So that doesn't help matters either. So, I don't know. Just... The thing is when they announced that three-way for the main event, and granted it changed. Okay, it's Bobby Lashley, who's cold right now, for whatever reason. They didn't, he's cold. Elias, who's Elias is hot to a degree, but not necessarily as a main event in your main event of the TV show. And Jinder, who, even though he got pulled, who's not hot at all. And you're going like, this is your main event on the TV. I'm thinking like, with the competition that they had, it's like
they're asking for it.
They're pretty much telling people like, turn the channel, because we got nothing tonight. And really the whole show, it felt like they're just filling time. It felt like there was no, the biggest thing when it was over, the Rollins match with Kevin Owens was a good match, but that was the first thing on the show anyway. But after that, it's like you had stuff. It's not like it was terrible or anything, but it was just like nothing. It felt like it was just filler, except for that. The only thing that I remembered when it was over would be the Sami Zayn thing, because he's going to bring in Bobby Lashley's sisters, which could be really terrible. And if that's what I remember, what does it tell you about this show? There was like nothing to that in the, the really bad Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax thing. So, it's like, this is a show that, I don't know. It felt like they gave up. It's just like, we got no chance, so we're just going to fill time.
Well, they filled time with a good opener. Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens for the Intercontinental title. Rollins worked him over, went for a tope. Owens caught him and threw him into the post for the heat. Come back for all of the usual near falls. This is awesome chance. There was a spot where Kevin went for a suplex on the apron, but Seth switched it and gave him a Falcon Arrow on the apron, which looked brutal. Had a striking battle. More This Is Awesome chance, and finally Seth tried the superplex, but Owens hit his cradle suplex off the top. Seth rolled outside to avoid getting pinned, and then Owens threw him inside, and as he crawled back in, Seth hit the curb stomp and pinned him. Everybody's favorite finish. The guy winning just gets hit with a move and pinned. But hey, it's a hell of a match.
It was a really good match, yeah. Aside from this, there was nothing that good on the show, but good opener. Kevin worked 3 times tonight.
That's right.
Because he worked a dark match after working. This was a long match. Then the main event was not a short match either. And then he still worked a dark match as well. It's like, which was a 6-man tag. It's like, man, 3 times in one night. They're asking a lot from him.
We had the upfronts footage again. At the beginning of the show, they only showed a clip. This was the entire thing. And
it was worse in long form.
Yeah, then they showed the exact same thing later on in the show in case you happened to be lucky enough to miss it the first time. So we had the Miz Taraj meeting with Kurt Angle. They want a tag team title match. Angle's aghast. And they say they want to be known as the A-Team. And Kurt says, that name's taken. Bo says, well, how about the B-Team? Kurt says, what kind of a stupid name is that? Bo says the B stands for best. So Kurt says, listen, in your entire careers, you have never won a tag team match ever. You're not going to get a title match. You lost to the champions last week. And so basically he says, listen, if you leave me alone, I will let you wrestle later on tonight. So they leave him alone. We had No Way Jose, Bobby Roode, Baron Corbin, Money in the Bank qualifier. No heat for the match. Nobody cares about Jose. He's the new Adam Rose. Everybody knows it. Roode is over a little bit past his entrance. Corbin is just there.
Roode's not over much at all.
He's got the entrance, and he's got his glorious chant, and that's about it.
Yeah, but he'll do that waving of his arms, and everyone will go glorious, okay? But that's just Pavlov reaction. That's not being over in the least. I mean, he was really over in NXT, and he walked around and carried himself like he was a total superstar. I mean, in NXT, I thought this guy, he just got it. And now on the main roster, it's just like he's just a filler guy. Nothing wrong with him. He's okay. But, yeah, nothing. Corbin, for a guy they're so high on, man, he doesn't get over naturally much at all. Jose, just not over in the least, and beating him over and over again it's not gonna help him. But I know somebody has to lose, and of these three, if you're going to pin one of them, Jose's probably the guy. So the argument is probably, why is he in this match to begin with? And why did he get brought up in the first? Why did you bring him up and do anything with him if you're just going to beat him over and over right away? Because if you do that, it's like, what's the purpose?
Well, Corbin hit his corner-to-corner clothesline, missed one, hit the post, and Roode hit No Way with the DDT and pinned him. So Roode going into the Money in the Bank match. We have Owens complaining to Kurt backstage. He demands a rematch, says, not only do I want a rematch, I deserve it, and I want to choose a stipulation. Kurt says, or what? Kevin says, I'll call Stephanie McMahon. Kurt says, I'm sick of you threatening me. Owens says, it's not a threat, it's happening, and he goes to call her. So Kurt goes into his office, and Jinder is there. He demands they cancel the match after he was wrongly attacked by that animal Roman Reigns, which quite frankly is true. Kurt says, no, we have to do the match. It's best for business. And Jinder says, fine, I will overcome these odds and do what Roman was unable to do and qualify for Money in the Bank.
Okay, so Kurt...
So he's a babyface here.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but Kurt said that we have to have the match this week because they have to have all their qualifying stuff done this week. But they didn't.
No, there's more next week.
Yeah, but that was his point. It was like we have to get the qualifying stuff done this week. But they didn't. If they didn't finish it up, so it was like,
nope.
Yeah.
So we have the B team versus Breezango. Crowd was doing soccer chants. Pretty much a nothing match. Nobody cared until Fandango missed the top rope leg drop, and then Axel and Bo hit a combo neckbreaker and win, which actually got the crowd to pop, and half the crowd gave them a standing ovation.
Yeah, it was.
Listen, this is not going to continue in the U.S., but in front of this crowd, they were over.
They were over in that weird, ironic way.
Yes,
that doesn't that doesn't mean anything. It may continue in the United States. That there's always the chance that the cult thing works. You never know. It could. And they weren't. It's not like they were doing anything before. So it is for them. It's a positive. And what's their how much is their upside? I mean, even at best, you're talking about this kind of culty comedy thing. So there's not much upside to it, but so I can't say it's something. It's nothing wrong with doing it. Just filling time. I mean, as far as filling time, it's with guys. It was fine.
So Charlie interviews him afterwards, and Got a victory promo, goofy victory promo, anything is possible for the B team. Crowds chanting B team loudly. And that was it. They're undefeated, they claim.
They challenged Wyatt and Matt Hardy for the championship. Fans chanted their name, and yeah, that's them and Hardy and Wyatt is going to be. We already saw the match; it was nothing. Anyway, if that's actually the direction, I guess it just tells you the state of the tag team division.
We had Ember Moon and Natalya and Sasha versus the Riot Squad. Natalya got the hot tag, went for the sharpshooter on Liv Morgan. Ruby tried to break it up. Ember sent her outside. I think they did a spot where they both punched each other at the same time and took a double bump, which was weird. Broke down into a six-way, and then Ember and Sasha took out Ruby and Logan outside, and Natalya made Liv submit to the sharpshooter. Last few minutes were pretty good. Long match.
Still, it went too long. People didn't really care. It wasn't too bad though. And Sarah Logan, I guess, has a bad right knee. She had a big brace on it. Yeah, time just felt like just filling time. It wasn't like there was any like big story to it. They're just,
just doing matches.
Just filling time. Yeah, nobody looked particularly bad or anything like that. It was just kind of there.
We had a Dolph Ziggler Drew McIntyre promo. So, Matt has added the spot in all of his matches now where the opponents do something and he leads the crowd in a standing ovation for how wonderful it is, and they're into it. They do it. Heat on Matt when they clipped his knee. Bray got the hot tag. Matt.
They're wrestling the Revival.
Yes, the Revival.
Matt and
I forgot that important detail there. Anyway, they took out Dash.
The Revival's just doing wonderful.
Yes, hit Dawson with the double Sister Abigail and got the pin.
Yeah, it was easy to get a reaction from the crowd. I mean, as far as like the Matt Hardy reaction stuff, it was just, again, it felt like they were just filling time. Didn't feel like there was anything particularly noteworthy, or no direction out of this. Just filling time.
We had Sasha awkwardly wishing Bayley good luck tonight. I guess Bayley did an interview recently and said that she loved the feud with Sasha. She remembered when she was a kid, the slow build to angles. And I was like, I know that you've got to say shit like that, but come on. Slow build did not mean break up and then get back together and then have fights in the locker room and get back together. It was a slow build to the fight and then it was on.
Yeah.
Not this.
Yeah. I was just like, when I saw that scene, it was just like, what is this? I mean, what is this? But
like, the tagline was
this is like a really, like, as far as like booking goes, this is like a really bad feud.
Yeah,
like really
it's terrible.
Bad. Yeah,
it's the worst of the year.
Yeah, because the whole thing is that a feud, there's the idea of a feud is that you want to see something happen, and this one I just want to see it go away because nothing's happening. So, I mean, I'm not interested in it. Like when they first did the turn, when they were starting to build to the turn, yeah, I was interested. When they did the turn and then they tag teamed afterwards, and when they still tease getting back together and it's months later, nah, it's just bad.
Let's remember the famous tagline, the mega powers exploded.
What about it?
Well, they didn't explode and then be buddies again the next week. Like when they exploded, it was over.
You're talking about you're talking about one of the worst feuds the company's done versus one of the best feuds in company history.
Well, I'm just talking about she's remembering these things from her childhood. There was a slow build. That was a year-long build. That's a slow build. But when they exploded, they exploded.
Yes. So maybe they'll explode again in a year.
Oh, great.
Yeah. What are you going to say? I mean, this feud just sucks. Okay, that's all there is to it. And I think that she's not stupid. She's got to know it. I mean, whatever.
We had Sami Zayn doing a promo in the ring. He's burying Lashley. Says Lashley gave him vertigo from a delayed suplex. First documented case in WWE history.
What about Ric Flair?
Was that? It was WWF when that happened to him, right? Warrior whacked him in the ear.
Yeah, Warrior nailed his ear. That's why he had to drop the championship.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Now,
well, was it documented?
Yes, but they never did. They didn't ever use it as a storyline there. When he was in WCW, I think that they did a Vertigo storyline when they were trying to do one of these shoot storyline things.
Where he had a heart attack and then later it turned out it was an inner ear deal or whatever the stupid thing was they did.
That's the period that I block out of my mind. I just block so much of that WCW crap out.
Oh, no. He had a heart attack, but then it turned out he had been poisoned. That was a storyline.
Yeah, well, now you know why I block so much of it out of my mind. I think they did a Vertigo issue in WCW with him. They did all that stuff because every now and then, they did all that fake stuff with him, and then there's one thing where wasn't there one that was actually real? They were all fake, and then one of them was real.
May have been the Vertigo.
Yeah,
sounds familiar.
Yeah, I
haven't got there yet. Watching it back,
I think he may have had Vertigo in WC, but the first time he had it was in WWF in 1982. So, yeah. But whatever. I mean, the whole idea is that you're trying to put heat on Sammy. Now, why would if this Royal Rumble thing was so prestigious, the idea is that he's faking this injury, okay? But he's wrestling every week. But he didn't wrestle in that Royal Rumble. So the idea is that why would you fake to not be in that Royal Rumble? You know what I mean? Wouldn't you fake to not be in a singles match with Braun Strowman? But in that Royal Rumble, it's isn't that something everybody wanted to be in? I mean, you had guys coming out of retirement to be in that thing.
Well, they actually never even, in this promo, he never even mentioned that he had missed the Royal Rumble. I guess we're supposed to remember that.
The announcers brought it up.
He didn't bring it up. He knew better.
I don't know if he brought it up or not, but I know it was talked about. I mean, it was because they brought about the Royal Rumble, and they brought up... No. He absolutely brought it up because he talked about he would have won the Royal Rumble, except he couldn't wrestle in it, and then he would have won all these other matches, and he's been losing all of his matches because of the vertigo, and so no, he absolutely brought it up. Yeah, because it was part of the whole storyline here is that he hasn't won a match. Bringing that up, he hasn't won a match since he's got the vertigo, because the vertigo ruins your balance, and he can't win matches now. So he's basically telling us that, he's no good, and this is the reason. And he can't win. I don't say he's no good, but he's hurt and he can't win matches right now. So he's telling us up front that that's the reason. And the idea is that we're supposed to think that the thing is fake, and he's just making excuses for the fact that he keeps losing his matches.
Well, all I know is he said that Lashley wanted to be him, copied everything about him, including his hat.
I know Lashley tries to get his physique just like Sammy's.
Sure, yeah. Said he went on Facebook, and he's reached out to Lashley's 3 sisters, and he is bringing them to Raw next week to tell the truth about Bobby.
My first reaction when I heard this is I hate to make judgments because next week they might have something really good planned. But my faith
well, Dave, the reason you make these judgments is based on history.
Yeah, my faith isn't that high right now.
No, history indicates this probably will suck. But it is Sami Zayn, and he has made a lot of things that could suck great. So this
interview was okay in that sense, but it still felt like part of a program that was dying.
Yeah, it's Lashley versus Sami Zayn.
And then the other thing too is he's out there doing this promo, and I mean, didn't it feel like he was just out there dying in this promo? It wasn't and I thought it was one of the better things on the show. I don't even know why. I think just
because he has great delivery.
Yeah, his delivery was good. Maybe it was just perverse entertainment because it was he's out there dying, but the whole.
But everything was dying on this show at this point.
That doesn't make this good.
No, my point is it wasn't him dying. It was the show was dying. Nothing got a reaction except Braun Strowman later. They didn't care about anything. They didn't care about Lashley. They didn't care about Owens. They barely cared about the Drifter. They just sang along. They didn't care about Bayley. They didn't care about Mickey. They didn't care about Alexa.
Whoa. Bayley had a lot of fans there.
When she first came out, they sang, but when that match started, it was virtually complete silence when she made that comeback.
No, except for the singing. No, but they sang going into the commercial break, and they sang a second time later in the match. They definitely had, the remnants of the NXT Bayley people, because she was always, when she would go to the UK, she was super, super over, and they would sing the song. And when she started on the main roster, they still did it when she would go to the UK, and they still did it here. She was like super over, but yes, as far as the match itself, it was completely dead, except for when the fans decided to sing to her.
Are you sure? Sure that they were singing to Bayley and not some other random chant?
No, it's the same thing that they did for NXT over and over. Hey, Bayley, sure? I gotta know.
All right.
They did it twice.
I'll take your word for it.
And the first time it was cut off because they went right to the commercial. So I don't know how long the first one was. The second one was not particularly long, but they did it. They'd already done it once for a while, and then they came back and did it a second time.
All I know is she made a comeback. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but this place was dead silent for her comeback.
No, they did not.
So I don't know how into her they were when they didn't give one shit about her making a comeback trying to get into this Money in the Bank match.
They weren't into the match. They were into her. Or
then why didn't they care when she made a comeback?
Because she's
Why
dead.
were they silent?
Because she's dead and they know it.
Then why do they sing for her then?
Because they think that that's what they're supposed to do because it's England and it's Bayley and we're supposed to sing.
Killing me. You're killing me here.
We're supposed to sing for her because that's what we did when she was over.
No, what you're supposed to do is cheer for her in her matches so they'll do something with her. Like actually care when she makes a comeback.
They weren't into the match. Why should they be?
Because they like her and they want her to qualify for Money in the Bank. That's the idea.
I don't think that they believed that she was going to win. I think they all knew that Alexa Bliss was going to win. They know she's not getting pushed, so why cheer for her? It's not like they're into singing to Bayley. They're not into like Bayley winning matches. They've already given up. Everyone's given up on Bayley as far as like winning.
You realize
matches.
how ridiculous what you're saying right now is? You're not wrong, but do you know how ridiculous that is? They don't care if she wins, but they're going to sing for her because they like her, but they don't like her enough to cheer for her when she's winning. This is ridiculous.
It's not that they don't like her enough to cheer for her when she's winning.
Well, they didn't cheer for her when she was winning. They didn't care. They were dead silent.
Because they know that she's not getting. Why would you get enthusiastically behind someone?
Well, they are when they're singing for her, right?
No, they like her, but the whole point is that they're not enthusiastic behind her because why waste your energy when you already know that they buried her 6 feet under in the booking and that she's not going to go anywhere, and you know she's not going anywhere. Why, you can sing for her because that's the cool thing to do. Kind of like when Fandango came out and they all danced for Fandango, but when his match was on, did they care about him? No. So she's the female Fandango. I mean, they were doing that thing because that's what happens when Fandango comes to the UK. They pretend that he's super over, but once the match starts, are they going to get go Fandango, go beat those Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel? Fuck no, they didn't care about any of that. And that match was the same thing.
Well, Alexa won. She pinned Bayley.
So they were right. Of course. Do you think they didn't figure that out coming in?
So then we have Jinder.
I mean, Alexa Bliss gets pushed. Bayley doesn't get pushed. It's easy.
We have Jinder all taped up. Vows to show the world why he's the modern-day Maharaja. He gets speared through a wall. And that's the end of him. I don't know where he was going 30 minutes before the main event. I guess it's a long walk down to the ring, but he got killed here.
Okay, so here's the thing that was really bad. It's like that wall. First of all, the wall looked like it was made of cardboard. And when when they speared him through it, you could see that there wasn't even a real wall because you could see that was how the arena really was. It's like they made up a fake wall. It's like, don't make it look so freaking fake.
We have Finn and Braun Strowman against Dolph and Drew McIntyre. So, did a tease early of Drew and Braun, but then Drew tagged out, didn't want to be in there with the guy. Bizarre way to go to commercial. Come back and they're beating on Finn. He finally gets hot tagged to Braun. He, of course, runs right into the post. Finn gets a blind tag, double foot stomp on Ziggler, knocked Drew off the apron.
hasn't like Strowman like learned not to run fast because he runs into the post. It's like every single match. He runs into
it's
the
not
post.
just him; it's every large man because there was the
Corbin
exact same spot with Corbin earlier.
Yeah, isn't that like so redundant?
So Finn goes up top. Crowd's dead for his comeback. Drew cuts off the foot stomp because Braun ran him over outside. They both go flying. This was a total train wreck, by the way. Usually Braun runs a guy over and the guy takes a bump. I don't know what went wrong here, but Braun hits this guy. They both went flying. I don't know what happened to Braun, but he was selling for a long time afterwards. Hopefully he's not hurt. But something got messed up there. And then Dolph crotched and pinned Finn. That was it.
Maybe he's used to he runs into Kevin Owens, so it's probably like running into a pillow. And running into like Drew is probably like running into, like a wall. You know what I'm saying?
It was almost like he was running and planning to hit him with his right shoulder, but Drew was on the other side, and so he like tried to. I don't know what happened. I just know he hit them, and they both went flying. It was nuts.
Well, they had to take Strowman out though. He had to be out of the picture for the pin.
Well, he got taken out, all
so
right.
He didn't break up the pin.
They replayed the Ronda thing again, and Kurt's on the phone. And
hey, look, that was the big theme of the show. Big theme of the show is Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax. I mean, that was the biggest thing they're promoting tonight is Ronda Rousey, Nia Jax, and yeah.
So Kurt says, I sent Roman away. It's still going to be a great triple threat. I've got a perfect replacement for Jinder. And then Stephanie on the phone chastises him and tells him that Kevin deserves another opportunity. So, in fact, it is Lashley, Drifter, and Kevin Owens in a Money in the Bank qualifier. No heat early. The fans are chanting Bobby's sisters. Then they start singing Walk with Elias.
Yeah, wasn't that wonderful?
Starts to make a one-man comeback. Everyone's booing Lashley. Elias hits a powerbomb. Lashley breaks it up. They boo the hell out of the guy. Hits the Dominator on Elias. Sami Zayn runs down, pulls him out of the ring. Gives him the kick outside. Owens hits the big splash on Elias. The one guy they liked in the match. Pins him. Owens is in Money in the Bank. Weren't Owens and Zayn, like, having problems a week ago? Did I imagine that?
No, they did. They did when he slapped him and everything on the last pay-per-view. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had like 3 weeks of that, and then all of a sudden they're buddies now. Best friends again.
They made up afterwards. That was then and this is now.
Another slow build feud.
Well, eventually they're going to feud, yeah.
So there you go. That's Raw, everybody.
Well, they had to pin Elias because the other. Okay, so anyway, the thing with Bobby Lashley, with Sami Zayn costume, so they do. That was the exact same thing that they did with Roman Reigns for the finish last week. The exact same thing.
Well, that's how they book. Large dudes run into posts. Small dudes steal pins. What else is there?
Guys that they really want to push as baby faces get screwed and get into feuds, which, but in that it's like the exact same thing. It was like it was a three-way. Was it four-way or a three-way last week? Whatever it was. Roman Reigns was about to win, and Jinder's cost him the match. So this week, Bobby's about to win, and Sammy cost him the match. The exact same thing. So I guess we're going to have Roman Reigns against Jinder on the pay-per-view, which is going to suck. And Lashley and Sammy, we'll see.
Last week was Finn Balor, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn.
Yep, so same three-way, same finish. 2 weeks in a row.
So there you go. All right, we got some news here. WWE UK signings and the WWE upcoming King of the Ring tournament.
Well, the King of the Ring tournament, they did. Jack Gallagher beat Drew Gulak at the tapings, so that's one. And they're going to do some matches June 8th to June 10th at the Download Festival. So there'll be some more first-round matches before they get to the June 18-19 shows, which is the UK tournament shows. So there's a bunch of guys. Let me look at my list of guys who are probably there's. I think that there was like like 20 guys. They were, or some number like that. They were looking at signing, to keep away, because ITV actually taped in the last couple of days. They taped from the 8th to the 10th, and I heard it was good. They had Will Ospreay, Grado, who was still the top star. I don't know why. I mean, I can see why you have Grado, and I could like put Grado like if you're doing like this TV promotion and everything like that, and you want your, I can see like Grado being like this kind of like mid-card funny guy and everything like this, but I can't see like building the whole thing around him. But that's what they're doing. Harry Smith's there. Let me see who else. There's a bunch of other names on that one. Basically, the ones that WWE didn't get. Where's my list of guys on that? Stu Bennett is one of the announcers. Actually, I always thought Stu Bennett was a good announcer anyway. So, good voice and everything. He was Wade Barrett in WWE. So it's Will Ospreay was on some shows, although he worked other dates. So I don't know. He's only, but Davey Boy Smith Jr. was one of the featured guys. Grado, Moose, Joe Hendry, Martin Cooper, B. Priestley, and Kaylee Ray, and Rampage Brown. There's a couple of others, but I heard like good wrestling. But again, the show's gonna start. They did 10 weeks worth of tapings. It's gonna start in July or perhaps August, but probably late July. So that's the deal there. And then let me see. So WWE signed, as far as new guys, Tony Storm, who we've talked about, at least offered, Joe Coffey, Dave Mastiff, who was actually the top heel on the original ITV tapings when they did the ones with Jim Ross announcing, when they aired that New Year's show a year and a half ago, or almost a year and a half ago. El Ligero, Travis Banks, Chris Brooks, Eddie Dennis. And there's probably many others. I mean, they're just trying to scour, sign everybody up to keep them away from ITV and to do their own stuff as well. So I think they're going to announce at the Royal Albert Hall shows, which is the 18th and 19th of June, they'll probably announce a television deal or something, because the idea is now to really, because the other guys are doing something. They're going to be on TV for 10 weeks. WWE wants to do something and get something going to keep guys from going there.
So this John Cena on the Today Show deal today, did you see this?
Yes, I did.
What did you conclude when you saw it?
I concluded that right now everything's a complete work. I'm not saying that the whole everything's a complete work, but right now everything between those two that they're doing is a complete work to build the television show. That's how I concluded it, because he was so reciting scripted material. I mean, it was the same voice and the same reactions when he was secretly coming off of the proposal, that secret proposal, which everyone in the world knew ahead of time. So he's doing the same cadence, the same thing. So I go, well, that was completely fake. So this is his fake reactions. So this is obviously his fake reactions as well. I mean, he sounded so, the way he talked, it was so practiced and so, it just completely came off as I mean, I couldn't buy it at all. I completely couldn't buy it.
I would say about 95% of the feedback that I got was people who have confirmed, or not confirmed, but concluded that it is just an entire start to finish storyline built on getting them back together on television.
I couldn't rule that out. I actually don't believe that's the case, because they really did have a real wedding planned, and they really did cancel a real wedding that a lot of work had gone into. But as far as now, afterwards, like where we're at right now, yes, now I think that everything is wherever it is, and if they're going to get back together, whatever, now I think everything's a storyline, yeah.
So Chuck Liddell today announced that he wants to come out of retirement, and he wants either Tito Ortiz or John Jones.
Well, he wants Tito Ortiz for sure by the end of the year, and then he wants John Jones maybe 1 or 2 fights down the line. I don't know.
What's going on here?
I don't know. It's just sad. It's really sad.
He'd lost like 5 of his last 6 fights when he retired in 2010.
I know.
He's trying to come back in 2018. This is madness.
He's 48 years old, almost 49. Well, he'll be 49 at the end of the year, so he's 48. But yeah, I think it's really sad. I mean, I guess, like, the Chuck Liddell coming out of retirement, I think that there'll be some curiosity towards it, but you know how that stuff goes. It's like, it'll work once. I don't think people are gonna keep paying to see Liddell fight. I mean, I think they will watch the first one, but it's like, it's gonna be with Golden Boy promoting. So what are they gonna do? They're gonna sign up a bunch of guys, because all the good fighters are in UFC or Bellator. There's some that aren't. But for the most part, most of the good fighters are under contract. So if Golden Boy wants to start up, it's like they're not going to really have anybody. And they're going to do a show with Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz with no undercard, and exactly where it's going to be a pay-per-view. That'll die. Is it going to be a TV show? The right promotion? Like on HBO or Showtime? I think people I think there'll be enough curiosity for that to work once, but that can't be your long-term plan. As far as Chuck Liddell against John Jones, how do you do that? I can't imagine UFC signing that fight. Even though it probably, if it was under UFC, well, number one, John Jones is suspended, and God knows if there's any fairness, he shouldn't be fighting for several more years. And I don't know, so thinking about a John Jones fight now is completely premature. But the idea, let's just say that John Jones is only suspended for another year, and he can actually fight next year. Him and Chuck Liddell, I despise that fight. That's just terrible. It's unconscionable. And I don't believe UFC would do it. And John Jones is under contract to UFC, so he can't do it anywhere else unless he's suspended for years and years, and they go and do it in Japan, which they could do it in Japan if John Jones is off his contract. But man, the idea of that fight is it's hideous. It's like if it's Chuck Liddell and Tito, it's not so bad because Tito hasn't been good for years either. And Tito's older, but John Jones in his prime against Chuck Liddell, man, and I know it's funny. People don't, I don't know. People don't get it, but I'm reading, well, if Chuck was in his prime against John Jones, he would probably beat him. And it's like, no way in hell. No, John Jones is like the greatest fighter in the history of the sport. Chuck Liddell was good for his time. It's advanced so much since Chuck Liddell, that prime Chuck Liddell now, he had a lot of flaws. He wouldn't be dominating guys like crazy like he did back then. These guys are so much better than those guys then. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's the reality. But John Jones is a way, way different level than a prime Chuck Liddell. Way different level. Let alone a 48-year-old Chuck Liddell who hasn't fought in years, who's diminished, who's got no chin and all that. It's just I don't expect it to happen. I just think it's Chuck talking, but even talking, I just hate to hear it.
Let's jump into the mailbag here. Mailbag at WrestlingObserver.com. This person says it was reported that Hulk Hogan was requested by the Saudi royal family for the Greatest Royal Rumble to make an appearance. Any particular reason why he didn't go? Yeah, WWE wasn't ready to bring him back.
They weren't ready to bring him back, and I think if they were going to bring him back, they wanted more assuredness that it didn't going to backfire. Look, the show, they got a lot of bad heat for the show to begin with. They don't need another piece of bad heat from it. Whatever. They can, when they make up with him, they can bring him back for another show in the future.
This person here says, has there been any information regarding a stream for All In? With how fast tickets sold out, I feel like offering some sort of paid stream could be a great way to get more revenue.
We'll talk about that Thursday, but my impression that I was told was that one of the reasons that they didn't run the Cow Palace for All In was that it would cost that it was not a good arena for streaming. Whereas Chicago, I think they had a better setup. So,
here's the thing:
streaming was always considered. I'm sure that they will be aspect of it in some form.
When they did the press conference, they didn't say there would not be streaming. They simply said there were no plans for streaming at this time, or whatever the term that they used was.
Well, that's because they.
You don't want to announce you're streaming before the tickets are sold. So obviously now that the tickets are sold out, now you can announce a streaming deal. Yeah.
But look, nobody knew they were selling out in 30 seconds. They played it cool and everything like that, but they didn't know either. I mean, I know that, it was a big risk. So yeah, now everything's great. And yeah, now they can I have to believe that they'll announce a streaming deal, but we'll find out Thursday.
This person says, after the announcement of the UFC's deal with ESPN, it occurred to me Bellator is owned by Viacom, major television company. Because of that, Bellator does not have to go to another television station and get a TV rights deal like the UFC currently has. While it is an advantage in some ways, does this put them at a disadvantage for acquiring talent and having similar guaranteed income like the UFC?
Well, it depends. It's a different thing. That's the whole reason that they did this, was so that they would have an MMA property and they wouldn't have to spend $150 million and then bid to keep them on television. They own them. They got them. So the value of them is up to them. And as far as what they want to spend for them is up to them. So, and Viacom has tons of money, a lot more money than UFC, but it's how much they want to spend is up to them. What they feel the value of Bellator is. And, the ratings aren't great. No matter what, but UFC ratings aren't great and they're still scoring big TV deals. So the value is what what the company there says the value is. It's like, could Bellator get big money? I don't know, because it's like, because UFC gets big money doesn't mean Bellator is going to get big money, because look at WWE is going to get real big money on their next deal. That doesn't mean that Ring of Honor, who's also owned by a TV company, but Ring of Honor could go in the open market and get big money. Impact obviously isn't getting any money. New Japan hasn't gotten a big money TV deal, even though, they've done well at arena shows and they have a good underground buzz. They don't have a mainstream buzz, but they have a good underground buzz. So it's like, just because the main thing in the genre gets a big rights deal doesn't mean that Bellator would. So, whatever. But yeah, it's the same thing that's always been. It's up to Viacom how much they want to put into it and how much they want to spend, and if they want to spend for talent. And it's just, if they want to, if they want to sort of compete with UFC for talent, then they gotta, they gotta compete. They gotta compete, and again, they're going to pick up some guys here and there. They'll probably pick up Yair Rodriguez. That's a good one.
This person here says, why does Dave not do reviews in the Observer of major Stardom shows? It's probably the most notable women's promotion. Inarguably the most consistent match quality for women's wrestling, easily accessible.
I suppose if they did like a real major show, I would. But, for a Korakuen show, I don't do New Japan Korakuen shows. I don't do Dragon Gate Korakuen shows. There's not it doesn't have the interest level.
This person here says, are the Young Bucks Hall of Famers?
Too early to say.
When are they eligible?
I don't know. I have to look it up. I mean, be 15 years after they start. Probably 15 years after they started in TNA would probably be what you would say would be the eligibility point, or when both turn 35. I think Nick's how old's Nick? 27, 28. So you're not this year, that's for sure. By the time they're eligible, I think that we'll have a pretty good idea. But now it's too early to even think about it.
Let's see. This person here says, wouldn't it seem like a foregone conclusion that WWE and Universal would be good to go on a contract extension or new TV deal if WWE is present at their upfront event? Or is that something that WWE just used?
No, because they're going to be on for another season. This is for next season, the September.
Yes, this does not end until 2019.
Yeah. So so why would WWE not be at something that's for the fall season when they're going to be USA's key programming in the fall season? USA's a key part of NBC Universal. It might be the most profitable arm in NBC Universal. Well, I know it was. I don't know if it still is, but it certainly was. So no, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. That they were there. They were going to be there anyway.
This person says, did former NFL running back Demetrius Bronson get released from NXT, or is he hurt? He's been AWOL in 2018.
I'm pretty sure he was cut.
And I saw him up here at the house show in Seattle.
Yeah.
He was super over, but he was super green.
Yeah.
I've heard some rumors and vague stories about Japanese organized crime involved in promotions like FMW, Pride, Pancras, All Japan, New Japan. To what degree were the yakuza involved?
A lot more before than now, because before it was just accepted, and now that in recent years there's been very much of a stigma to not have that involvement. So there's a lot. I don't know exactly where it stands. When I would go, they were very involved. Now I'm told that it's completely completely different from before. Is there some involvement somewhere? Probably. I'm sure there is, but not at the level that it used to be.
This person here says, Bryan's rant the other night regarding Pennington stating she was done and her recorder sending her out got me thinking. If she had gone out in the 5th round and something terrible happened to her, would there be repercussions for her corner legally or otherwise, specifically given that the interaction was captured on camera?
No, there wouldn't be any legal ramifications of that. No.
I think he's asking like if she were killed.
They can't charge her corner with anything. No.
This person here says, in your opinion, which company or promotion had the best or clearest storylines throughout its run? I'm watching Lucha Underground and enjoy the storyline continuity. Is there anything you would say is comparable or better in its storytelling?
I thought that the storytelling in Lucha Underground sucked. That's what killed my interest in it. As far as long-term storyline stuff, Mid-South Wrestling was, I think, the best. As far as long-term storyline. I'm trying to think who else had really good storylines. I mean, Memphis had very entertaining television. It was, compared to other places, but it was very much booked week to week. Whereas Mid-South, you could see stuff, 6 months down the line. There was always a long-term vision there that was lacking in most places. WWF sometimes had real good long-term vision in certain points as well. But to me, as far as tying up all knots and everything like that, Mid-South Wrestling for sure.
All right, everybody, on that note, we're going to wrap it up for today. We got all sorts of stuff up on the front page. New shows coming later on this week as well. New back issue of The Observer's up. New Observer out on Wednesday, so check it out. And that is it. We'll talk to you again after a while.